The views and opinions expressed in the DILLIGAF podcast are those of the host alone and are not intended to express those of any other person, business, or entity. The DILLIGAF podcast is for entertainment only. These are my opinions and should not be interpreted as facts or advice. Think for yourself.
Keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh, yeah. I think that we've all had enough.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the DILLIGAF podcast, talking about anything and everything that interests me. If it makes me think, laugh, cry, scream, rage, or say what the fuck, you're going to hear about it. My name's Tom. I'm your host. I want to thank everybody for checking out the show on Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, or wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, share, rate, comment, all that kind of good stuff. Make sure you're following on social media. It's at DILLIGAF_pod on all the socials. And you can find all that on my Linktree, which is Linktree/DILLIGAF_pod, or scan this little QR code right there in the corner of the screen if you're watching the video. And you can always shoot me an email at dilligafpod@gmail.com. So it's Freestyle Friday, y'all. Just talking about whatever's on my mind. And yeah, there's a lot lately. But gonna start off with some good stuff, some mellow shit, some upbeat, happy type stuff. And what I want to talk about is the concert that I went to a couple of weeks ago here in Chicago at Soldier Field. Got to see one of my all-time favorite bands. And I'm talking about Oasis. Oasis is in my top 5 all-time for me personally. And never had the opportunity to see them live before. And then, of course, they split up in 2009. Just got back together and started a new tour in 2025. And holy shit. This was literally the best concert I've ever been to in my life. They went out there and they played everything that they're known for. They played all their hits, you know, exactly what you would expect them to do. I mean, these guys have sold out an entire world tour. And Chicago was no exception. Chicago is one of the only cities they only did one show. Every place else they're playing at least 2 shows. But Chicago only had one. I was lucky enough to get tickets. And yeah, I mean, it just completely mind blown for me that was a total bucket list item. And the crowd was fantastic. I mean, singing along with every song, just if you could stand inside joy, that's what it was. And you know, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I mean, it was just an awesome fucking concert. If you ever have the opportunity to see Oasis live, I definitely recommend it. And you could just see the I get the chemistry, I guess, the between the two brothers, Liam and Noel Gallagher. Famously one of the biggest brotherly rivalries ever anywhere, and that's what caused them to break up in the first place. And you could just tell by the way that they, I don't know, it's just visually you could just tell that it's much better between the two of them, and that's always cool. And that just made the show that much better. And they were just completely on point, sounded amazing. You know, there's very few bands that sound as good or better live than they do recorded. And now after seeing Oasis live, I have to say they sound at least as good live as they do recorded. So that was just freaking amazing for me. Like I said, that was a couple weeks ago. It was back on August the 28th, I believe it was, here in Chicago at Soldier Field. Just an amazing, amazing show. I do need to make a correction from last week's show when I was talking about Charlie Kirk. I had talked about that his wife and his kids were there when he was killed. There's been some dispute about that. Some people say that they were, some people say they weren't, some say only his wife was there. It sounds like just his wife was there, because when she made her statement, she talked about when she came home, the kids were asking where their father was. Either way, whether they were there or not there doesn't change anything that I said. I made the statement, no one deserves to get gunned down in cold blood like that. That statement stands. That doesn't change whether his children were there or not. No one deserves to get gunned down in cold blood. Nobody has the right to gun someone down in cold blood. That was the whole point of last week's show. But there has been so much bullshit to go on since Charlie Kirk's killing that it's fucking ridiculous. Now, I make no bones about it. I didn't like the man. I thought he was a garbage human being. Still didn't deserve what happened to him. I don't care how shitty of a person you are. Nobody deserves that. But I mean, his body was transported on Air Force Two, the vice president's plane. His coffin was carried by the fucking Air Force Honor Guard and all this stuff. And the president ordered that flags be flown at half mast for him. This man was not a saint. This man was not a fucking hero. This man was not some military hero or politician or anything like that. He was a fucking podcaster. He made his living by creating division and animosity between people. He didn't deserve to die the way that he did, but he also doesn't deserve all that shit. No fucking way. And moments of silence at sporting events and all this kind of crap. No. Just no. They're trying to make him out to be some kind of fucking martyr, and he's not. And then you've got his wife coming out making this thing, basically making threats, and you don't know what you've unleashed. You know, the irony of that is if it was somebody else that got killed and their wife was out there making those kind of statements, Charlie Kirk would tell her, get her ass back in the fucking kitchen. Because that's how he felt about women. So I just find irony in that. And then she's, like I said, making threats and then does like a photo op with his fucking coffin, which is just kind of creepy. So I don't know. Whole point is, just wanted to make that correction. Apparently, his children weren't there when it happened. Doesn't change anything I said. Just want to be giving correct information here. But yeah, and then in relation to that, you've got a lot of people going online and like celebrating the fact that he died, which is wrong. I will say that flat out. It is wrong. That's not something to celebrate. I said last week there are people in this world whose deaths should be celebrated. I'm talking about people like Hitler and Hussein and bin Laden, people who have committed like genocide and just caused all kinds of harm to the world. Now, granted, Charlie Kirk, I think his rhetoric was dangerous. It empowered people to just be hateful and shit like that. But when you get down to it, all he did was talk. He was a fucking windbag. He was a podcaster. That's all he was. So he's not one of those people that should be celebrated. But I do believe there are people that should be celebrated when they die. Their death should be celebrated. Let me make that clear. But like I said, I'm talking about people like Adolf Hitler, Saddam Hussein, people like that. Yeah, those deaths improved the world. Charlie Kirk ain't one of those people. So anybody celebrating his death, you miss the point completely. And I'll leave it at that. But then there's other people coming out saying basically the same thing I've been saying. I'm not going to celebrate his death, but I'm not going to mourn him either. I don't think he was a good person. Didn't agree with a damn word that fell out of his face, but he didn't deserve what happened to him. But now the people who have been celebrating or making fun of his death or the way that he died, apparently are getting like doxxed and being reported to their employers and losing their jobs and shit like that. And to that, I kind of have to say, you're kind of bringing it on yourself if you're doing that kind of shit. I mean, let's be real. It it's happened plenty in the past on the other side. Somebody goes online, makes a racist, hateful rant or whatever. They get reported to their employer, they lose their job. It's the same thing. It's still hateful conduct, hateful behavior, whether you're going on a racist tirade or you're mocking somebody being assassinated, gunned down in broad daylight. It's still hateful speech. And if your employer decides that they don't want to be associated with that, they have every right to let you go. You know, if it works for one side, if the racists and homophobes and transphobes are going to lose their jobs for their bullshit, people who are going to mock someone who's just been assassinated are going to lose their jobs for their bullshit. You can say you didn't agree with him. I'll say it all day long. I didn't agree with him. I thought he was a garbage human being. I thought his viewpoints were just completely crap. There's no better word for it. But I'm not going to celebrate the man's death. That's just wrong. To me, that's just completely immoral to celebrate somebody's death. You know, someone like that. Like I said, there are cases where I find it acceptable. This ain't one of them. You know, this was not some horrible war criminal who committed mass genocide or something like that. He was a podcaster. He was a fucking YouTuber. So, yeah, I mean, as far as the people losing jobs thing, if it works for one side, it's got to work for both sides, y'all. And employers, they have that right. You know, people want to scream about the First Amendment. The First Amendment doesn't apply. That's why I think so many people don't understand what the First Amendment actually is. It just means the government can't make laws restricting your free speech. The government. It's there to keep the government from preventing you from freely expressing yourself. Doesn't apply to private companies. That's why people can get kicked off social media for hate speech. That's why people can lose their jobs for hate speech. It's just how it works. And like I said, if it works on one side, it's going to work on the other side. A lot of people aren't going to want to hear that, but it's the truth. Now, is it the same level of hate? I don't know. It's just it's hate either way you look at it. And I mean, again, it, if it works for one side, it's got to work for both. So I really can't feel sorry for you if you're out here mocking and making fun of and making jokes about somebody dying, somebody being assassinated, and you end up catching some backlash for it. You know, like I said, I can sit here all day and tell you I did not like Charlie Kirk. I don't think he was a good person. I'm not gonna mock him or make fun of him or mock or make fun of the way he was killed. So that's pretty much all I can say about that. But now there's also some other stuff going on that I think does fall under the free speech category, and I'll tell you why. Jimmy Kimmel indefinitely suspended from his late night show simply for talking about the Charlie Kirk assassination. He didn't even make a joke about it. All he said was he sees people on the right using it as like a political tool. And it's true. But the powers that be didn't like that, so they decided they're going to put pressure on Disney and ABC to yank him off the air, and it worked. Now, that is government overreach. That is the government censoring a television network, and that is a First Amendment violation. But that network, Disney, ABC, should have stood up. I mean, hell, Disney, one of the biggest broadcasting companies in the world. You're going to tell me they couldn't stand up against the U.S. government if they wanted to? Hell, yes, they could. And, by the same token, Paramount taking Stephen Colbert off the air for more or less the same reason. Didn't have anything to do with Charlie Kirk. This was announced a few months ago, but because he talked bad about the president. And, they're going through Paramount's going through a merger right now, which the government will have to approve. And so again, government overreach to silence Stephen Colbert, take him off the air. Yeah, that's a violation of the First Amendment. And we've got newspaper reporters being fired and shit like this. It's the media that opposes the current administration being silenced by the administration, by the administration putting pressure on the media companies to get rid of the people that they don't like. Yeah, that's a First Amendment violation and it's bullshit. And somebody, somewhere, one of these fucking networks needs to actually stand up and say something about it. Fight back. But I mean, as far as other people, like content creators losing their jobs and shit like that, that's a private company. Just like if Spotify didn't like the content that I was putting out, they could, you know, just cancel my podcast, ban me from the platform. It's their choice, their private company. If they don't like the content I'm putting out, yeah, they can pull the plug on my show and I not a whole lot I can do about it. Just like my regular full-time employer, if they saw fit to let me go for my content here or what I post on social media, not much I can do about it. If it doesn't fall in line with their corporate values, which thankfully I work for a great company, I really do, and it's not really an issue. And plus, I try to temper what I say online. Not a whole lot on here, but what I post on my personal social media pages, I try to temper it a little bit. I mean, I will talk about my true feelings on subjects, but I may tone myself down a little bit from what I might say in like private company, just because that is something you have to worry about. It's out there for the whole world to see. So if I'm putting up a post about religion, which everybody knows I'm against religion, I'll say what I have to say. I'll state my opinion on it, but I try not to take things too far. And there is such thing as too far. There is. So that's really all I can say about that stuff. As far as people posting on social media and losing their jobs over it, you got to be careful what you put out there because it's out there forever. It's out there for the entire world to see. And if it somehow doesn't line up with your employer's values or the image that they want for their company, yeah, they can let you go. That's why people get let go for racist tirades and stuff like that. Like I said earlier, that's why people are getting let go for mocking and making fun of a person getting assassinated. It's all hate, and it all creates a bad image. And let's be real, that's all most corporations care about is their image. Because if their image gets tarnished, it's going to affect their bottom line, and they're not going to tolerate that for nobody. And that's what it breaks down to. It's bad for their bottom line. So let's talk about some other stuff that's been going on lately. This next one I got, it's been going around for a little while, ever since school got back in session. Talking about phones in schools. A lot of schools now banning cell phones for students, either making them lock them away for the day or taking them or whatever. Basically, not giving kids access to their phones during school hours. And I've seen a lot of people have a lot of things to say on both sides of this issue. And a lot of the older generations, I'll say it, my generation included, likes to say, well, we didn't have phones in school and we did just fine. We also didn't have active shooter fucking drills. We didn't have as much concern. I'm not going to say we didn't have any. We didn't have as much concern about somebody just coming in and shooting up the place. You know, we had things like tornado drills where we hid under the desks. Yeah, that because that would have been effective, right? And why the fuck do we have tornado drills in Chicago? When the fuck's the last time a tornado touched down in the city of Chicago? Yeah, but we had them. Or we had fire drills where everybody had to go stand outside for 20 minutes or whatever. But never had no active shooter drills when I was in school. So I'm kind of more on the side of the parents who say, no, my kid needs access to their phone. Today's day and age, yeah, I think they do. But I understand phones are a distraction. We're addicted to our phones, people. You know, everybody's phone is always never more than a foot away. It's always within arm's reach. Everybody's on their phone because our whole lives are on our phones now, or at least most people. Some people are able to are able to just not do that. But for most people, our whole life is on our phone. That's our email, that's our social media. We do our banking on there, shop for groceries, whatever. It's all on our phone. That's where all our music is. We watch TV on there, and our phones do everything. So yeah, phones weren't a thing back in the day when I was in school, but I understand the distraction issue for teachers and stuff. And I'm fully in favor of if a kid is on messing around on their phone during class time, yes, give them a detention. I don't think you should ever take the property away from the kid. I don't. Give them a detention or whatever the punishment might be and leave it at that. Or even if it's a habitual problem with a certain kid, give them a detention or maybe if they're on their phone during, well, if they're on their phone during a test, the assumption is going to be they're cheating. But I mean, if they're supposed to be doing classwork or paying attention to a lecture from the teacher or whatever, and it's a, like I said, if it's a habitual thing, maybe the next step, take a letter grade off their next test. I'd even be okay with that. But at the day and age that we live in of mass shootings and school shootings, and also, I hate to say it, of teacher neglect or even teacher abuse in some cases, no, kids need access to their phones. And this doesn't even take into consideration what if you've got a diabetic kid in your class who that's how they monitor their glucose and all that stuff. You know, phones do have medical uses for some people as well. And they can't be without their phone for 8 hours a day. That's something that has to be taken into consideration. So no, I don't think phones should just be arbitrarily across the board taken away during school hours. I think kids should have access to them, but I don't think they should be on them during class time. I think during class time, they should be away in a pocket, in a backpack, whatever. Not sitting on the desk. And if a kid does have diabetes or something to where they need their phone for a medical reason, first of all, the teacher should be aware of that. And if they have to check it whatever however many times a day, the teacher should be made aware of that schedule. And okay, it's 10 o'clock. Timmy's got to check his blood sugar, so he's allowed to have his phone out. It's not that hard. And like I said, during class time, in a pocket, in a book bag, if it comes out, You know, write them up, give them a detention. If it gets really bad, start knocking down letter grades or start knocking points off of stuff. Start taking away school activities if they're in extracurriculars, sports or whatever. Oh, you've been warned 5 times about your phone. You're suspended for 1 game. Something. To me, that would be a reasonable solution to the distraction issue of the phones, but just completely 100% taking them away, no. Not in the times that we live in. I think it's a horrible, horrible idea. But that's just my take. I don't have kids in school anymore. Thankfully, my son is grown. So I don't have to worry about it. But if I did still have a kid in school, that would be my take on it. And I am one of those parents who would fight with a teacher or a principal or whoever I needed to fight with when it comes to the safety of my child. It's like, yeah, he's going to have access to his phone, whether you like it or not. So, again, that's my take, my opinion. If you agree with me, great. If not, that's okay too. And one last thing I got to touch on because I find it hilarious and also very hypocritical. There's been so much crap going around online about this new movie coming out called The Carpenter's Son with Nicolas Cage. And they're saying it's so blasphemous and it makes Jesus the villain and all this kind of stuff. First of all, the kid in the movie was never called Jesus. He's just called the boy. But it's not based on anything that's in the Bible because it's at a time in Jesus's life that isn't covered in the Bible. In the Bible, Jesus goes from being 12 to being 30. Nothing in between. This covers a time during his adolescence, and from what I understand, it's taken from the Gospel of Thomas, which was rejected when the Bible was being compiled. It was rejected as heresy, along with a lot of other. But there's a lot of ancient texts out there that were rejected as being part of the Bible simply because they didn't fit the narrative that the church wanted to put forth. So they're, oh, that's heresy, that's blasphemy, and blah, 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 blah. This one's supposedly taken from the Gospel of Thomas that does cover Jesus's younger years and doesn't paint him in a great light. I mean, young Jesus was kind of a little shit, according to this book. I mean, struck one kid down with paralysis for I forget what reason, killed another one for like bumping into him. Yeah, Jesus did some fucked up shit in this book that this movie is based off of. But Christians are so up in arms. It's mocking Christianity, it's mocking Jesus, mocking the Bible. Well, no, it's telling a story from another gospel. It's just not one that y'all accept. But it's still taken from an ancient text from the same time period. It's just one that y'all reject because it didn't fit your narrative. And I'm sorry, but literally every other religion or faith in the world has been mocked or made out to be the bad guy in literature or media at some point in time. Look at the way pagans have been depicted in film over the years. They're always devil worshipping, demon loving, horrible people. Look at how Muslims are portrayed in media. They're always a terrorist or something along those lines. Look at the way Jews are portrayed in media and literature and all this kind of stuff. They're always greedy, just shyster bastards. And let's be real, this is not the first time Christianity has been made out to be the bad guy. It's not the first time Christianity's been put into film. I personally just think Christians have a victim complex, a persecution complex. I'm sorry, nowhere in America are Christians being persecuted. Get over it. It's a movie. And this goes along the same lines as people who think that, watching horror movies is going to make demons come through your television or through the fucking movie screen. It's a movie. It's a Hollywood production with lights and special effects and actors. That's it. It's not some evil ritual to raise Satan. People take shit way too seriously, especially entertainment. Excuse me. But yeah, honestly, I plan to see this movie when it comes out, but I'm pretty sure I'm just gonna watch it at home. Amazon usually has whatever movies are in theaters. You can usually pay to watch them at home. I think that's what I'm gonna do because I have a feeling there's gonna be some fucked up shit going on in some movie theaters where this movie is playing. I hope I'm wrong, but it's just a feeling that I have because some Christian extremists, and I stress extremists, not all Christians. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the extremists because they do exist. Who the hell knows what they'll do or what they'll try to do? So, yeah, I definitely would like to see it, but I'll be watching it at home. And the funny thing is, I never even heard anything about this movie until I saw people bitching and moaning about it on TikTok. Never even heard of it. Had they not been complaining so hard about it, I probably never would have heard of it. So them them complaining and trying to get it pulled is only gaining it more recognition, getting more eyes on it. So that their little campaign is not really having the effect that they hoped, which is kind of the way things go. So yeah, like I said, I'll definitely be checking it out because some of those uh what's what are called the Gnostic Gospels or like the Dead Sea Scrolls, the books that were not included in the Bible, those things fascinate me because why weren't they included? Most of the time, it's because it doesn't fit the narrative that the Christian church wants to put out there. It paints Jesus as human. God forbid. God forbid Jesus be depicted as a man. Or there's another one, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, that shows a woman in a position of power and authority in the church. Oh, hell no. That can't be a thing. And the thing that oh, you know what? I shouldn't even get into all of that right now. But oh well, fuck it. I already started. The thing that gets me, the thing about women like not teaching in the church or anything like that, that all comes from like the later parts of the New Testament, which were supposedly written by Paul, who never even met Jesus, basically made all this shit up as he was going along. I mean, if supposedly Saint Peter was supposed to be the one left in charge of Jesus's teachings and Jesus's flock in his church and all that, why is Paul the one making all the fucking rules? Whatever. I don't know. Just a question I've always had about Christianity. But if anybody wants to answer, feel free, but it's pretty much a rhetorical question. I really don't care that much. It's just yet another contradiction as far as I'm concerned. But so yeah, I'll definitely be checking out The Carpenter's Son in the comfort of my own home because I'm not thinking movie theaters are going to be very safe places on those days, unfortunately. But with that, I think it's going to wrap up this Freestyle Friday for this week. Just wanted to get another show out 2 weeks in a row. That's an accomplishment for me. So again, thank you to everybody for checking out the show on YouTube, TikTok, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from. Please follow, like, subscribe, share, rate, comment, all that kind of good stuff. Help me out. You don't even have to do all those things. Just do one of those things. Something, please. Come on. And make sure you're following on social media. It's at DILLIGAF_pod on all socials. And you can shoot me an email at DILLIGAFpod@gmail.com. And you can find all that on my Linktree, which is Linktree/DILLIGAF_pod. Or scan that QR code right there in the corner of the screen if you're watching on video. So with that, I'm going to say I hope everybody has a great weekend. And yeah, if anyone has any issues with anything that I have said here today, ask yourself one question. Do I look like I give a fuck?
'Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution.